Welcome. Welcome to Thursday morning, story time. Welcome, welcome. Right. So we are rocking and rolling. Welcome. Right, damn smack on time today. We're early yesterday. What? Early? Yeah. I couldn't wait. So here we are. Cynthia on Demand, Holistic Mystic Mastermind will follow directly after this. So I'll just give you a little bit of info while I wait for some people to come on, because sometimes it takes a little while for them to see that we're live. If you haven't got the follow on, so you get your little alerts. So after this on demand, which is the free sharing on Facebook and YouTube. So today we're following on from, basically this month is around the conscious evolution process seen through the lens of these ancient or sacred texts. So we've been touching in on the book of Esther, and we'll continue diving even deeper today. So if you've missed the last few, go back and watch them, but you should be able to follow, because I'm using it as a reference. This whole thing isn't necessarily about just that story. It's about how you can live your life and look back at the all sorts of stories. Like when you have the mystic truth, you see it in everything. Unconditional love, purity of unconditional love is in everything. You will see it in every story, every conversation, every post, every when you look out into the world, it's in everything and everyone. So you'll see it. This is what I call the mystic truth. It's the seed where everything else grows from. So I share a story and analogy, metaphor, parable to help you see where this is playing out in your life, in your relation to yourself, the self, and the beloved. And when you have that understanding, that information, you are then able to share that or see that and share it into the world in your relating with others, or the other, objective, subjective. And we only get that once we have split. So I think next week we will be, we'll see where we go today, but I'm feeling into next week, we'll go right into the from union, from the one to the separation, the decoupling, to the object subject. Oh, there's somebody else. Then the flip, the back to back, right? So unconscious to the process of coming back to see the other from another space, a higher consciousness. So the book of Esther, the story of Queen Esther, it actually shows you this process when you have the eye to see, or the ear to hear, as the Magdalene says, right? So we're going to touch on that today. Now, housekeeping. So if you want to come to the $30 for the month of mentoring, go to the link that you'll see in the Facebook group or on my Instagram profile, and you'll see Holistic Mystic Mastermind. So at the moment, I've got 2 days free so that you can have a look. There's a bunch of videos and resources there already, but they'll be built on as we continue. So there's probably, I think, 8 or 9, or I'm not sure how many videos are on there, and images and resources. So have a look. And then if you want to continue for the rest of the month, you pay $30. Okay. And so after the lives, then we go into your opportunity to ask questions and go deeper for yourself in this information. This week, we've been going into a particular heart meditation, and each day we're going deeper and deeper and accessing more of what is coming up for the individual, right? So that's what we're doing this week. Next week, of course, we'll be just unfolding it more. We have a retreat coming up in April. So a painting retreat. You can see some of my paintings here. I actually cracked out my oil painting. This is what I've been working on for quite a while. There's 2 of them. It's a volcano. So this is Mauna Loa. So it's my huge oil painting that I'm working on. Cracked her out, Emma. I cracked her out. And there's another one, a matching one. So it's Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa, which are the 2 volcanoes that we have a relationship with here. So why was I bringing that up? So the painting retreat. So these paintings are portals and access to your intuition and your way of going deeper in your spiritual development. And if you'd like to join us, it's 2 days. So like, I think it's 8 hours all up, something like that. I'll put the link under this Facebook group, and there are one-to-one sessions available. So if you want to work directly with me, give me a hoy, send me a message. And we have Relevate, so Regulate to Elevate, which we have this Friday coming up. But if you'd like to join us, you still can. And we look at really what is stopping you in the stress and trauma and attachment issues. What is preventing you from moving forward, and find the charge, release the charge, so that you can access that energy. So that's that. That's my housekeeping. Whoop, whoop. Ready? Who's here? Say hello on the Facebook page. I can see a couple of people here. And not many on the Zoom today. Where are you all? There's a bunch here yesterday. I guess it's just us. All right. Maybe they're a bit late. I did blow their mind a little bit. I was saying, it's like I kept asking questions and they're just looking at me. I'm like, I don't know if that's a good thing or a not so good thing. You know, it's like, yeah, I don't know if it's like a heart expansion or a head explosion, but we went some places yesterday. All right, so let's get on with it. I've got a few notes here on my little miniature notebook that I'm just going to review from yesterday and just see what comes in, because what I was talking about this morning, so earlier this morning, I was asked, so what are you talking about today? And I went off on this, and I was like, oh, I wonder if I will talk about that, because we never know. All right, so we were unpacking the woman in regards to this journey. Now, I was asked yesterday after the call, just in my everyday life, there was a conversation about the possibility of people being or taking some of the information and running with it and not quite, using it for their own devices, right? And it can be very easily utilized in that way, meaning that we're talking about masculine and feminine energies, but we're also talking about man and woman, right? And when I'm speaking, it's like I'm speaking and I'm telling the story of all the levels at the same time. And I come in and out of that. So I made a note for myself. It just says unpack woman feminine. That's my note. All right. So knowing that there's these macro and micro levels, but there's not just the two. There's these multiple levels. Oh, look out. She's cracking out the whiteboard already. Multiple levels of what we're talking about. So whatever story I happen to be talking about over this month or next month or any teaching, right? I'm saying there's the, so let's do it like this. So we have the masculine, just say that's a portal, and the feminine portal, right? Energetic, let's just make it like more of a cosmic thing, right? And can you see that okay? On my screen, it's sort of cut off, but I think it's cut off a bit, isn't it? There you go. Now, if we had a person in there, so here's your head, here's your body. So these portals are just really between the shoulder and the ear, right? They're energy vortices. One is, I'll get my left and right. So this is the left, this is the right. So we have we'll just do the masculine. It looks like a rose. Oh, what? Rose. Oh, look. Down the track, it'll probably be way down the track, but that came in last night about understanding the rose, right? So we talk about the rose, the rise to the rose here, but there's so much cosmic, mystical phenomena around the rose as well. So, and this one is the feminine, which is I'm going to do it in the blue, right? The mother. Now, the mother drops within us down to the perineum. So when I talk about the drop or the diminishment of the feminine, I'm talking about it like this within the human. Man, woman, right? Both. Whether you're, it depends what you identify as, but if you've got, oh, this gets tricky, so I'm not going there. All right, I was going to say, because there's so many identifications. I was going to say what your genitalia is, but that's not, it doesn't work for everybody, right? So man and woman, let's keep it simple. Regardless, as a human, you have these energies, and there is a drop down to the perineum. So even just, so try this. So some of you have never done this before, and some of you who do different yoga or breath work and whatnot, if you squeeze so put your attention or intention, I've got to be careful I don't get taken off on Facebook. You're laughing because you know where I'm going. All right, so there's a space. I'm not going to name it so I don't get kicked off. Can I even say genitalia? I'm not sure. Anyway, all right, between the two bits, whether you're a man or a woman, you got me? If I say it like that, between the two bits, there's a point, there's skin between this bit and this bit, right? Okay. Perineum. So if you're in the mastermind, I'll put some photos, but oh man, they're awesome photos. They tell you all the basically the points of how the genitals actually, each part of the genitalia for man or woman relates to other aspects of the body, macro, micro, the glandular system, all the different organs are all represented right? Just like on the ear or in the hand or on the navel, all the rest of it. So that's why it's so beautiful. But anyway, back to this. I digress. Drop your intention on the perineum and squeeze your, it's not really your pelvic floor, but for now, just squeeze the pelvic floor, because you can isolate all the muscles there to activate different parts of your system, right? So this is something we'll go into down the track if you're interested in. So just take a breath, close your eyes, take a breath, drop to this space, the perineum, and just take some breaths and just squeeze and hold and release. And on this one, I want you to take a breath, squeeze, hold the breath, just gently, not like, just hold the breath in. See, I'm holding my breath and I'm still speaking. It's just gently. And then release. And just notice, do a little sweep of your body and your system, and just notice, observe, be curious. That's all I'm going to say about that for now. It's just a little activation. So we have this drop. So when I say that there is the drop, diminishment, what other words have I used? They're the main ones, the fall, the death. I don't really use that because it alludes to too many other things. But there was the death of Vashti, right? So that's that. Now, energetically, you'll see this in the story of Esther, because her uncle Mordecai, right, or he becomes her husband, which is the archetype, right, is the masculine, but he also, it's a bit tricky because he also is seen as the feminine on another level, right? So we have all these levels. So all of this to the beloved is feminine. Everything under the line is feminine to spirit, to the beloved, right? But on this plane, then we have this other sort of sectioning. Do you see what I mean? I don't want to do it like that, but we have man and woman, but then within the man and woman, we have the masculine and feminine. Anyway, we'll be unpacking this. So if you're not getting it all right now, it's just something to hang your hat on for now. So the masculine energy within us stays here. It doesn't drop. So this energy in our spiritual or conscious evolution has to make its way back up to meet with her partner, or its partner, but let's just say her, because, you know. Now, he can't come right down to her. And this is beautiful in the way that when we go deeper into, or, you know, more to the end of Esther's story, you start to see this as the metaphor. But he will come as close as he can, so that when she rises to the heart, he can meet her. Now, even though the feminine is magnetism or magnetic and the masculine is electric, because we have masculine and feminine, you know, it's in everything. It's like yin and yang, right? So within there, he uses what magnetics he has to come into the heart to meet her, right? This is the first union. To do that, there's a bunch of heart awakenings, because there's actually 7 sparks of light. They're heart points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That are illuminated through our evolution. And we have the thymus, which is the higher soul heart. And we have the sacred heart, which is here. We have the heart chakra. And we have the physical heart, just to name a few that need to be activated in the process to be able to get beyond this level. This is why the 5 and the neck and the throat and another going off on the Sephirot or the eminences, right? So we've got 1, 2, 3. There's this one that we call das or da'as, which is knowledge, right? Layered over the body, that is this space of consciousness, right? Going from the heart union to be able to get to that next death, to cross the void. There's a big jump here. Okay. So when we look at Vashti, Queen Vashti being beheaded, she lost her head. There's other reasons, there's other knowings and understandings around that too. And I'll get into that in a moment. Yeah, as I say that, I'm like, will I remember to get into that in a moment? Let's just see, because actually I'll get into it now. So when we start to move into this next phase, and some of you will understand that in motherhood, or even, you know, your moon time and things like that, right? Where you start to get all this brain fog. Some of you that I'm looking at right now on the Zoom, right, may have felt that when you start to move into these higher activations, it's real spacey, and you're sort of like, well, what world am I in? I'm toggling the world. It's sort of like the brain almost diminishes, or it feels that way. There's a reason for that. So you see how there's on the human level, like, okay, I'm pregnant, you know, the pregnancy brain, when you have your children, or your partner has the children, you'll see that there is this, it's almost like a diminished capacity, or it seems that way, like you're trying to think or say words and the wrong words are coming out, and it could be due to sleep and all the rest of it. And what I'm telling you, because when we become mothers, and if you're not a mother, it still happens at different places. So, but just to let me use this as a story to be clearer. What we're doing majority of the time is giving of ourself. There's this selflessness, this surrender to the other, this building of, I guess, compassion, you know, to give to the child, for the growing of the child. So in that process of diminishment or stepping back of the brain, or even of the self, you know, an aspect of self, for another part of us to grow. Does that make sense? Just give me a nod so I know you. Yeah? Okay, good. Now, because I'm jumping around a lot, and this isn't even what I planned. I knew it would happen. Eric said, you know, it'd be interesting to see if you actually say what you said you're going to say. But, you know, once I start drawing, I see it, right? So it comes out different. So, so I'll get back to this in a minute. I just want to tell you this story because it's a lot of you will be experiencing this. And so if you're a man, you'll still have that experience of, you'll get to a certain point in your development, and it's like, are you here? Are you there? Did you, it's like the memory things start to happen. And if that's happening, like I literally would use stick-it notes. I don't need to anymore. I have my brain back. But there's a stage where you wake up and sometimes you don't know where you are. And so I would have these stick-it notes on the side. So I would wake up and I'd see the stick-it notes that just had certain words on them, because those of you that are a little multidimensional will understand this. So I'm talking to an array of people on this live, right? And some of you are like, what is she talking about? Well, if you hang around, you might find out directly, right? But if not, there's many of you that have this capacity for experiencing other dimensions, other worlds, other realms, okay? And it's in this in-between space. It's when you start getting into these higher levels of experience that you have even more experience. So it's part of what Queen Esther is working towards. So going back to this is consciousness, another name for consciousness, knowledge, right? So when we're here, we don't show this one because they're interchangeable, because this is the kingdom, right? So if this this is consciousness or that knowledge, and it sort of is movable. That's why we only talk about the 10 eminences, not the 11, because these two sort of go. So that's enough for now anyway. I don't want to confuse, because some people don't follow that system, and that's cool. All right, so where was I? Let me just check my notes here. So all of that was to say, unpack the woman and the feminine. All right. So just know when I'm talking about, so even the sun and the moon, you could look at that as the sun and the moon, or the two suns, and both couldn't be up here yet. So one had to diminish, and it was the feminine. So she became the moon. The moon doesn't hold her own light. The moon reflects the light from the sun. So there's a part, and this is where I'm saying people can misunderstand this piece. There's a time when she is reflecting the light. So he's holding the space for her return. Okay. She's doing the work on working on the ego, and refinement, and what she has to sort of to drop from here to here. There's a humbleness to that. I don't know how many of you have dropped in your life, but let me tell you, I have numerous times, many, 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 many times been knocked off my perch, right? There's a humility to it where you go, oh, okay, I see that now. All right, and off we go again, right? The spiritual ego, so we have the ego and the spiritual ego. So once you start getting some of the power, some of the intuition, some of the, the siddhi powers or the Shakti powers, your spiritual ego can kick in. So this is what we're talking about with Esther is beyond that, where there is no want or need. She's complete within herself. She no longer has to reflect the sun or the light, she has direct access to. So this is a key to the rise. So the drop, the rise, to the rose, beyond consciousness, into like direct access to the beloved. Does that make sense? I sort of feel like that's the clearest I've ever said it. Maybe not, but how are we going? Yeah, good. Okay. How are we going on Facebook? Oh, we got a few guys on Facebook. So that's awesome, considering, yesterday I was talking a lot about the woman. But we have this within it. So whatever, I just saw there was a Swami on here. So that'd be interesting in relation to Kundalini and even the Tao, right? All these different ways of understanding the rise, right? Kundalini. There's different ways. So some talk about the rising of the serpent. Some talk about the Tao talks about the dragons. The rising of the water, right? Rising water to the fire, heart, creating the steam to go even higher. Yeah. So whatever metaphor, whatever story, the key is conscious evolution and the processes of that, and looking for these mystic truths that are alluded to in pretty much every tradition. Well, I don't know every tradition, but the traditions that have come through me, right? That have been shown to me through this process. Because you'll see as we go further into over this month, that once she has, and I'm talking about Esther, but it could be, you in your development, whether you're a man or a woman, right? So this is the human energy, or an aspect of the energy, reaches, combines, and sort of that is the first marriage or the first union. And then we go to the second union, right? So there are other deaths within here that maybe we'll touch on at some point in time, but not today. For that process to happen, where Esther, so let's go back to Esther, the story of Esther. And I can tell you that in relation to Shakti and Shiva and Kali Ma and Adi Shakti, all of that sort of stuff, to overlay it to see where that fits. But maybe the following month we'll look into those stories. So back to Queen Esther. So she is moving into, her husband stays at the gates of the palace and says to her, it's your job to enter into the throne room and stand before the king. Now, the king in this story has the light and the dark. So Hashverosh is the king, and he's the dark, the king who killed the previous queen, right? So there's some depth with the feminine there for her to rise. So there are other deaths in there, like I call it spiritual deaths, okay? But today she stands in front, so she gets through, not by pushing and fighting like Queen Vashti did, the dark side of the feminine. She fought in a way that looks like feminism, right? That fighting and arguing and trying to be the same, where there was a process that needed to happen for all of it, right? The process of this energy, the process of this one, to come together so that they can rise together. So her husband, Mordecai, who raised her, prepared her for the rising. So if you didn't see it, go back to yesterday's and watch that. I was talking about how his job, he was her uncle. Her mother and father died when she was at birth. So the uncle, Mordecai, took care of her, right? But he also became her husband. Now, I guess metaphysically, you know, he's preparing her, he's raising her as a father, he's raising her like as a child, but as a husband, he's supporting her rise by holding space and reflecting, sharing the light. So the sun and the moon. And so don't get that mixed up with man and woman necessarily. It's a metaphor for this, right? Okay, because some people will go to their husbands and start saying, well, you know, right? I don't recommend that. Or go to your wives and say, well, you know, you're in the drop, so I have the brain right now, or whatever it is. Don't do that. It's not good for your relationships, let's just say. Okay, so when you understand this a little more, you'll be able to be empowered by it, whatever gender you identify as, because this is happening in all of us. Okay. So Esther goes in, and we know from yesterday that if she approaches the king without being summoned, that people are put to death. So she knew she was going there. She could die. Now, you know, that's what my teacher back in the day said. You know, Kundalini rising, you know, if you live, good. If you die, good. That is just the way. It's sort of the same. She's going. She may die. She may not. And she was ready for that. She says it in the story. She knows that she could be put to death. But the king points his scepter to her, meaning she can live. He saw her. He saw her. He recognized her. Now, at this point, he is no longer the dark king. He is literally the beloved, God, Hashem, whatever you want to call your you know, this higher aspect. Okay, so this is where they're standing in the throne room, and she is received fully in her completeness because she's done the journey. She no longer has the whatever you want to call it, the fight, the ego, the shadow aspect that is wanting to take power rather than walk with power. So she needed to be complete enough. So we as humans are working on our wholeness. And even in your relationships, when you stand complete, face to face, not back to back. So we'll go into that next week about the uncoupling and back to back, face to face. So when you're conscious and unconscious in life and in your relationships and what that looks like and the energies around that. But she was able to stand face to face complete. So he put on the royal crown, or the Keta Malchut, which means the royal crown, not just the crown, the royal crown, where the bottom and the top are equal. There's a flip in the power dynamics where they stand face to face, ready to reign in sovereignty together. She has the opportunity to, I just lost my train of thought. She has the opportunity to make that choice. She has free will at this place. This is why I rattle on about you think you have free will, but unless you've gone through this process, you really don't. you're making decisions via what you can see in the world, which is really restricted based on your beliefs and conditionings, how you've been encoded and raised. See, Esther was raised to do this. Her so bizarre, her father, husband, uncle, right? This metaphor for all of it, who held the spark of the great ones before him, right? And you'll see that in other traditions as well, in some way. They'll call it different things, but it's there. Raises or holds space for the feminine till she's ready, and then says, okay, now this is your opportunity to go and have that death rebirth, I guess. So yesterday I said, Queen Esther then knows that she will be dead to her husband, Mordecai, whether she lives or dies. She's dead to him. Because they merge and become face to face here for them. In a way, this is how I experience it, for them to keep going, right? So when they become united here, they can continue the journey together. Well, it's not even together, they just are. They are. It is. And they go to the no thingness. Now, you'll hear me sometimes say this is like Christ consciousness and God consciousness. In God consciousness, there's no thingness. In Hebrew, they say Ein Sof, no thing, right? Or the wide out. I'll often say the wide out, because when I go there, it's like I have barely, I'm still alive, but that would be the closest, I would say, experience to being alive and dying, because I've had near-death experiences, so sort of have a little history there, but also my spiritual death, rebirth, and what that's like. But when we touch into that whiteout, there's no thing there. So when we're bringing direct light in, well, we can't. And so this little model is sort of showing us a process of conscious evolution, or the evolution of the human from Homo sapiens, sapien, to Homo spiritus or Homo luminous, the same thing. So we can call it spiritual development or conscious evolution or whatever, but really it's the evolution of the human as a species. This is how, this is a little tiny speck of what happens in Cynthiaisms, right? All right. Are there any questions of that? I'm just going to check my notes, and I went off on my drawing, but let's just see if there's anything. I think that'll do for today. I think next week we'll go more back into it. So so we'll be back on Monday. So Monday to Thursday, we do this on demand. So if you want to join us, I'm about to go into the mastermind where we go deeper and do some processes and whatnot. So that's $30 for the month. If you want to join that, you'll see, if you're on Facebook, you'll see Holistic Mystic Mastermind. So you can go in there, and there's a couple of days trial. So if you want to just go in and see the replays or whatever, you can do that. And then PayPal will start the subscription of $30 a month. So you can stop it at any time. All right. Any questions before we go? Before we move over to the next piece. So if you're new here, you can go back and watch yesterday's and the rest of the they're all there on Rhombus Healing Arts. They have the same picture, so you click on the picture and you'll see the live on some of them is behind the picture, but some of them are just there. And, you know, see what else we've talked about if you're interested in the story of Esther. And the reason we're talking about that is because the book of Esther in the Old Testament and also, which is, you know, the Hebrew Bible, the Torah, is the last book before the sealment. They call it the sealment, right? So it's interesting that Queen Esther is the last book before this happens, and how she brings, changes the whole idea of how the beloved can appear to us. Because by her doing this, we no longer are looking outside of ourselves for you know, this God of the past, right? So look at, if you it doesn't matter if you're religious or not. I'm not. This isn't my religion. None of them are, right? I'm a mystic. I go direct. I have my direct communication. But when I see the different texts and ways of knowing, I see the experience. And she shows how there's a shift in how that energy exists in the world. So in Moses' time, right, the miracles were outside. You know, the chariot in the sky and all of that, it's all in there, right? And then when all of this happens, the beloved conceals himself, is concealed within the concealment, it says. Is hidden so deep within us. We hold that. So it's now, rather than that scary God of the past where, you know, everybody's been traumatized by religion and whatnot, right? Right? I've worked with so many people who've been traumatized by religion, right? And when I start to tell them and break down the stories in ways that make more sense, then they can heal that. And so, you know, they're not having these traumatic experiences when they hear the word God, or they hear the word, whatever that word is for you, right? So we're able to have that choice to merge in or stand face to face with that all there is, right? Rather than being lower and begging for light. Not so much begging, I'm being dramatic, but it's story time. I can be dramatic, right? It's like, please, sir, can I have some more? Right? And reflecting that. So we get to the point where we are that, and then we reflect it as well. So when I receive, I can also share. So that's why in the mastermind yesterday, we were talking about reception and being that vessel, receptacle for light, to be able to hold what's going on, right? Expansion, and be that in the world, which I call R-ing, doing, being, R-ing. So you become that. You share that. So it starts with, you know, working on yourself, trying to do whatever from down here. Okay, I'm dropped now. Oops, I got to do that. That journey back home, and in that we learn these virtues that, you know, depending on what, you know, the Buddhists, the Christians, the Kabbalah, the Hindi, Tamil, there's all these virtues that we master. And even on the energy, just the last thing on the energy grid, if we have these energy grids on each of the different portals of that energy grid are virtues that need to be mastered. And when they are, this grid comes together and forms that that light vehicle, right, that takes us further on that journey, right? So, and then we have all these mastered virtues that merge in with other ones. So that's for another day, but just to whet your appetite of what we can go into and what we could work with, and how all of that impacts your physicality, your vessel, your vehicle, your body, and what, you know, we negotiate with. You might call them spiritual emergence and emergency, or, you know, like what comes from the journey. So often having some type of way of understanding what is invisible. You can't see it necessarily. Most of you can't till you start tapping in, and then you get to see and feel and sense and know, because your sensory system is no longer dormant. Right? So we're going to wrap up the the Facebook Live and YouTube and go over to the mastermind. And until it's Thursday, isn't it? So Monday, I'll be back Monday. So if you've got any questions, you can still put them in the chat and I'll have a look later, or you can connect with me directly. Feel free to send me a direct message or an email. And until we meet again, may the blessings be. Much love.